Hello, my name's Stuart, and this is going to be a series of short videos that I'm going to start making about writing a book and about the book that I'm writing. Beginning of this year and tail end of last year, I started getting interested in sort of wanting to read more. I've always been interested in fantasy books, so I started reading some interesting fantasy authors, and sort of simultaneously started writing a book as well. It started out as I thought it was going to be like maybe a short story for children. I had like an outline plan of like really a few key segments, from the beginning to the end, but literally a few sentences, on each page that might fit on a page of a children's book, and quickly discovered that actually this was something that there was a lot more to it. And just started writing really. I had this outline plan. I had most of the characters in mind. There's sort of four main characters, and I think that really helped. I've tried writing things before, but I really worked on like, who are these characters? What kind of characters do I want to create? And everything kind of spiraled from there. I've been writing it on and off, not every day but most days, and I'm up to about 50,000 words now. I'm sort of shooting for the kind of young adult fiction market now, which typically, depending on who where you ask, the sort of average word count for one of these is somewhere between, I suppose, 50,000 would be a bare minimum these days. Probably looking at least 60,000, maybe 70,000 would be good for perhaps a debut book by an author. But these young adult, particularly fantasy fiction, can run into hundreds of thousands of words nowadays. I'm well on the way to finishing a very, very early first draft of the story. It's been a long process. I say it's been a long process. Actually, I started at the beginning of this year. It's now the end of March, so it's been pretty rapid in terms of the way things have developed. But I know a lot more work to do before it's in anything like a state that I can try and think about even consider publishing. So I thought I'd start a video series on it. Why? Okay, what's the purpose of this about? So with the rise of AI generated content and things, I think it's going to become increasingly important for people to, if they want to get their work out there in the world, to engage in different ways. And I'm not the most camera friendly person. I'm sat here in my one of our rooms that we're right in the middle, as you can probably see, of renovating. This isn't going to be a thing about a vlog of personal stuff too much, I don't think, but I just thought I'd mention that because of the background behind us. I know I'm not going to necessarily build like a really big following on something like YouTube or any other platform. If I was to do some streaming or whatever, that's just not my personality. I think the value in what I'm doing is in my writing. But what I recognise is that I probably will need to connect with people to do this, and I kind of agonise about it and think for some people, they don't actually really want to know an author or get to know them, but others do, and that's fine. And I think putting stuff out there that's clearly not going to get a huge following, and I'm totally not expecting the book either to necessarily become published and massively well read as the first book I'm attempting to even think about publishing. But I think people can choose if they want to learn a bit more about me and how I'm writing and what I do, then they can do that. But equally, if I do get some sort of success and some sort of traction with the book and manage to get it published, and then people actually read it, then maybe there'll be plenty of people that just don't care, much about me or my writing process, but might actually enjoy the book, hopefully, anyway. Certainly, it's been a real kind of interesting new experience for me. I've done, just to clarify, I've done a lot of writing in various forms in my life, and I've enjoyed it. I really enjoy particularly creative writing, but I've never tackled anything like the scale of what I'm doing now. And it's quite exciting. It's been interesting, and it's helped me kind of work through a few things, kind of think about the way I just sort of changes your perception, much like reading a lot of books can change your perception on things. And I'm not a big reader, I never have been. But I think finding very recently some fancy authors that are writing the kinds of stuff that I'm interested in, kind of fires me up and inspires me. And I've always found it, like, for me, quite easy to sit down and write a lot of words and even edit them down and kind of refine them and make it better. Of all the kind of forms of creative expression, it's the one that I find just is kind of the most, it clicks with me in terms of, I play guitar. I don't do a lot of that these days, but, I've been into like drawing a lot, like just pencil drawings, getting really good at that. I say really good, getting a reasonable level of ability with that, and those are things that I used to do an awful lot more of, but I don't do so much now. Writing is something that's kind of been consistently around for me in my life, and so I want to kind of explore more of that these days. And I think it's really important in this whole world that we're in of kind of slight addiction to the whole digital thing, and I realised this is kind of the irony of contributing to it somewhat by recording a video to stick on YouTube. But I think it does give something to us, and for me, it's been a good outlet for a lot of things. I think it's kind of almost a therapeutic thing for a lot of people. There's been other things in my life that I found that have been quite therapeutic, and you could talk about all kinds of those things. But this is going to be a video series focusing on writing and how I'm getting on with that whole journey. I'm not at the moment going to commit to a specific schedule of like a video every day or every week or whatever. I just need to see how it goes, because the thing is, I'm not going to necessarily have much useful information to share about the book. As I say, where are we at with the book now? Well, it's, I would say, well on the way to being finished. I'm hoping it's going to end up being at least 60,000 words, maybe pushing it up into about 70,000. We'll see how we go. I'm just about to write the kind of the biggest, the ending scene in terms of like the main kind of, what do you call it, crescendo, I suppose, of the main arc of the book. But then there'll be the setup for future books in this, what I hope will be a series. So we'll see how that goes. There's definitely a lot more ideas I have about where the story could go. Really, it's kind of the story of introducing. If we pick one of the characters as the main character, at least for this book in the series, it's introducing this character. Really, they have an arc, in terms of how they develop throughout it. But actually, it's kind of a coming of age isn't the right term, but it's a sort of a story of how this person kind of goes from being quite a sort of stoic, maybe sort of quite, not sure if that's quite the right word, but a quiet but determined kind of character, and how they go from that to essentially being involved in a much bigger plot, and So their quiet life gets upturned. They, meet the other three main characters, and they go on this journey. And yeah, I'm sort of at the sort of the peak of that particular journey, that particular quest, and how it all transpires. And we'll learn more about this character, and in this final scene, really. And then from there, there's, as I say, the setup for another book potentially, and just sort of settling the sort of this particular part of the story. There's other sort of side characters that we need to kind of draw some threads in on at the end. So that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I'll be trying to do in the next few weeks as I write the last sort of part of this story. And then I get into, well, a few things. I sort of I want to share it initially with someone. I think I'm probably gonna, I've read all kinds of advice on whether you should do this or not, but I'm gonna, I think, ask my wife to read it when she's free, not to get any real critique of it, but just kind of have her read it and see what she thinks, but in a just a high level sort of more on a personal level, like, what do you think of her in this book, and I think she's interested to kind of know what it's all about as well, and I haven't tried deliberately not to give away too much, because it's kind of wanted to be a things to be a surprise and what have you. So there'll be that upcoming. We'll see what her reaction is. I might summarize that in a future video. But also, then it's next steps, editing. That's going to be the big thing. So before I even get to the point of handing it over to my wife to read when she's ready to read it, I'm going to go through, do a whole bunch of editing, just the basic stuff of, like, where correcting errors and trying to, like, oh, this doesn't quite make sense at all, not like heavy editing of like moving whole scenes around necessarily or anything like that, unless I really feel like it needs it at this stage. Then there's like the proper editing for thinking about, I don't know, maybe literary agents and publishing, but I'm not even I'm deliberately trying to kind of not. I've watched a lot of videos, like in the kind of lead up to this, like midway through when I was reading the book, just to figure out, like, well, I don't know much about being an author. I've written lots of stuff, some of which has been published in various places, but not really, fiction at all. And it's all new to me. So, but yeah, it's something that I think I feel happy to share. We all get. I do watch a fair amount of stuff on YouTube, and I do get these ideas pop in my head about, oh, maybe I should make a video about this, write about that. And a lot of it I just don't really have the enthusiasm for enough. There's a lot of things going on in the world, in the industry that I work in, etc., etc. I'm not going to talk about any of that. I don't think. I think the book is kind of an interesting thing to talk about, and it does serve the dual purpose of introducing myself as an author. And hey, it also evidences the fact that I am the genuine author of the book. As it goes along, I'll explain a bit about the book and about the process of potentially publishing, etc., etc. We need to be careful about this thing, this whole ownership thing. Now we're in this world of AI, and it's very quite rare for an individual to steal kind of like creative intellectual property like a book and try and pass it off as their own these days. That's actually a relatively rare thing to happen. But what is most definitely happening is stuff is accidentally, deliberately, or otherwise finding its way into the training data set for an AI model. And that's something that we have to find ways around sort of dealing with if we want to be, if we want people to be able to be involved in creative processes and have the authenticity of their work verified, but also kind of protected in some way, shape, or form. And making these videos is just one idea, one kind of way of doing that. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me. Hopefully there'll be another video along in the not too distant future, and we might even have finished decorating this room by then. So you never know. Thanks.